Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is for all my mamas out there who have had previous C-sections and now you are trying to have a VBAC after either 1 or 2 C-sections. For me, it was after 2 C-sections, and I often get asked, how did I do it? How did I prepare? And that is the reason why I'm making this video today, just so that I can kind of let you in on my journey and how I prepared for it and how I was successful at getting my VBAC. And I also wanted to share that my family and I started a family YouTube channel. So I will leave the link to our other channel below. Hopefully you guys can go over there and just check it out and subscribe. I'm so excited to share my family with you guys, and thank you guys so much for your support. So let's get started with this video. Just a little brief history, not gonna go into too much detail because I've already shared, I think, in other videos. I had 2 C-sections. The first one was an emergency one, 48 hours of labor. I was induced at 40 weeks. Ended up having an emergency C-section because my son's heartbeat was dropping and there was just no progress, no matter, they did like the balloon and just all these different methods to try for me to go into labor. And looking back, I honestly feel like my body just wasn't ready for labor, especially with your first one. I feel like women tend to go over their due date with their first one. So that happened with that one. And then for the second one, my second son, I made sure to find a supportive VBAC OBGYN, and I did. Everything was great. I just loved my relationship with that doctor. But then, you know, again, I reached 40 weeks. I wasn't going into labor on my own. I got induced again. And this time I was in labor for like, I want to say 13, 14 hours. And I dilated to a 9. I did get an epidural after I was like, I think it was 6 or 7 centimeters dilated, I believe. And again, the baby just wasn't descending. And although I do feel like they gave me more time, I do still feel like they didn't give me, like, we didn't try everything that we could have so that I could give birth naturally. So then I was left with that, and then fast forward to now, we knew that we wanted another baby, our third and final baby, and I was like, this is it for me. I'm gonna do everything that I can to educate myself thoroughly. So that's just kind of like a brief history. And so I ended up pregnant, and the first thing that I did was to educate myself on why I had to have my C-sections. Like, one of them for me was failed TOLAC, which is failed trial of labor after C-section, and I didn't even know what a TOLAC meant before. You just have to know why your body, or why the doctors say that you weren't able to be able to give birth naturally. So I did that. Moving on to another thing that I did was that I took time to process and heal from my previous C-section. Oh my gosh, I can't say that. C-sections. And the way that I did that was just processing with my husband or with myself, or just prayer with God. And I revisited all the feelings that I had with my C-sections, and sometimes you just want to get over it and you just want to move on and you don't want to think about it anymore. That was a hard time in your life, but I really felt that I needed to set the foundation for this third pregnancy. And you know, unless you remove all that yucky stuff, you're not going to have like a strong foundation. At least that's how I tend to see life. So, you know, I had feelings of shame, I had fear. I didn't believe in my body really, and I didn't stand up for myself. That was one big one that I just was like, why didn't I just push and say, no, give me more time? Like, I had a lot of regret. And so, you know, I just let that go. I, you know, gave that to the Lord, and I feel like He really healed me. There was just one day where I just it hurt to revisit all of those scenarios, but it was so good. So I really encourage you to just go back and just validate how you were feeling and give it to God, and then let it go, and then set the tone for what you're gonna do different in this journey. Whatever pregnancy this is for you, first, second, third. Well, it can't be your first, because if you're watching this, you're probably watching this because you've already had a C-section. But anyway, yes, process and heal from previous birthing experiences. Another thing that I recommend doing is to look for a supportive OBGYN or midwife. That is what I did. I actually started doing that even before I got pregnant. Before we moved to New York, I made sure to look into a supportive VBAC OBGYN, and I actually wrote down a lot of questions and I interviewed some of them. And so I did that, and this time around I chose to go with a midwife. She had amazing reviews, and I just wanted to experience what it was to be just taken care of during pregnancy by a midwife. And you guys, I've already said this in my other video, but my midwife was absolutely amazing. I love her. And one of the biggest things that she told me was that, you know, she saw my chart and the reason why I had C-sections before, and she's like, I think you can have a VBAC. I think you could have this baby naturally. It's, you know, enough space between your last baby and your third baby, which Ezra was 2, he was almost 3 when I had Honor. I just felt peace. So you need to ask the questions, you know, ask things that I asked was kind of like, what do you think about, you know, VBACs? What do you think about inducing at what week? How long will you let me go in my pregnancy before you induce me? Will you do like membrane sweep if like I'm already full term and I'm not going into labor? Just different questions. You can find a lot online, and there's a lot of VBAC support groups that I'll mention in a little bit, but I just really educated myself on just the current VBAC, current C-section research. I'll link the websites that I went on as well, but one of them was ACOG and the other one was ICAN. Because I had the previous C-sections, an OBGYN also had to see me, but I only saw him towards the end of my pregnancy. And even then, I also asked him questions. Also, something that you need to think about, I chose to give birth at a hospital still just because that's what I felt the most comfortable, especially because I had already had the previous cesareans. But I know that there's women out there who are like, no, forget the hospital. I am staying home and having this baby even though I had 2 previous C-sections, and that's totally okay. It depends on what your dream of like birthing is like for you. So whatever it is, you need to, you know, choose and know, like, do I want to give birth at a birthing center? Do I want to give birth at home? Do I want to go to a hospital? What do you want it to look like? And then work around that. And the reason why I say this is because you need to make sure that you have a supportive team behind you. You need to have somebody that truly believes in you, and make sure that when you're asking the questions that you really get the feel of like, are they just saying like, yeah, sure, we'll let you try for a VBAC, but then turn around and not let you, and then start pushing for like, well, we're gonna induce you on this day, on that day. Like those, I feel like that's not a truly supportive VBAC doctor. If they start pushing things on you as the due date gets closer, because I feel like some of them do, they're like, oh yeah, sure, we can try, but then when the time comes, they don't stand behind their words, you know. Another thing that I did was that I found support groups, and one of the websites that I frequently visited was ACOG. I also looked at the ICAN, which is International Cesarean Awareness Network, and they have so much information on just current VBAC guidelines. That way you know if your doctor is telling you the truth, because there are honestly some doctors who I feel like are just more old school and they don't want the responsibility of like a possible uterine rupture or whatever it is. And there are other doctors that are up to date with the research. And for example, mine, Dr. Barrett, he was like, yeah, there's research that says that it's better for us to allow you to, if everything is good in the pregnancy and all of that, it's better for us to allow you to try and give birth naturally than to do a repeat C-section. And I had already researched that and I knew that information, so it felt so good to know that like, okay, he's up to date and he stands behind the current research. So I encourage you to look for supportive just groups and stuff on Facebook. There's a lot of like VBAC supportive groups where you can ask a lot of questions, and then there's women who like just share whether they had a successful VBAC or they didn't. And honestly, just being fed all of these successful stories encouraged me so much, and it made me just feel like I can do it too, or like I can't wait till I can post my story and let all the women here know that I also had a successful VBAC. So it's nice to be informed and to also find a group of women who are contending for the same thing. And of course, this one is a given, is to maintain a healthy pregnancy. As you guys know, for me, I did all that I could to be healthy. I didn't gain, I think I gained 20 pounds with this pregnancy, which has been the lowest, because with Kalani I gained 30, that's my firstborn. With Ezra I gained 25, and with Honor I gained 20 pounds, which I'm really proud of. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that with my third one I had gestational diabetes. And with gestational diabetes, the risk that you run if you don't like control it, thankfully mine was diet controlled. I didn't have to take insulin or anything like that. One of the risks is having a big baby, and I'm not a big girl. I'm 4'10", I'm petite. And Ezra was 9 pounds, so just the thought of pushing a 9 pounder out of my little body is just it makes me cringe. But Honor was 7 pounds and 4 ounces. She was bigger than my firstborn, which he was 6 pounds 14 ounces. I was really proud that even though I had that setback of possibly having a big baby if I didn't control the gestational diabetes, I was proud that I was still able, despite that setback, to have my baby. And the other setback that I had was that I was 37 weeks already and baby girl was laying transverse. So I did a lot of spinning babies. So if your baby is not in position, that's a huge, huge, huge for you to be able to, for the baby to be able to descend properly through the birth canal. Your baby needs to be in a good position. So honestly, I spent so many hours on that dang birthing ball. I did so many exercises like spinning babies. You guys, I'll leave the website in the description box. But if your baby, I just felt like there was things that were just coming to test me. Like, do you really want this? Like, and I just kept taking it one day at a time. I did cry the first day that I found out that I had gestational diabetes, and I also cried when I was 37 weeks and they told me that the baby wasn't in a head down position. And then I cried that first day, and then the second day I was like, all right, let's do this. Like, I cried in the morning, and then at night, by nighttime, I was doing research on how to like solve the problem. And then by the next day I was on it. Like, I was like, nope, nothing is gonna stop me from getting this VBAC this time. So that is what I did. I also took some of the best prenatals that I found out there. It was a raw prenatal. I'll link that in the description below. And I did a lot of walking, a lot of healthy eating. Obviously, because I had the gestational diabetes, you have to have like a really restrictive diet. So I think all of that honestly helped me. All of that helped me prepare just my body for labor. Cultivating mental health, that's one of the things that I wrote down, because honestly, you guys, I didn't tell a lot of people about me wanting a VBAC after having 2 C-sections, because I felt like a lot of people are not educated enough, or right away they're fearful, like, oh my gosh, you could die, or you could get a uterine rupture, or the baby could die, just always worst case scenario. And like, I don't blame them. I know that they're trying to be helpful, and they're just trying to be protective, but I kind of just kept it to myself and to my husband. And I remember having the conversation with my husband and letting him know, like, I really, really want this, and I'm not asking you to do anything besides support me to the end. Like, no matter what, I will let you know if I feel like my body can't stand it, or if I feel like something is wrong and we need to have a C-section. Like, I just made sure to communicate how much I wanted this and how much I needed his support, and for us not to be like sharing it with the world, because when you get everybody's opinions, you just second guess yourself, or like they're unwanted opinions. So I just kept it to myself, and I listened every day to a podcast on birth, like whether it be VBAC or just moms giving birth naturally, how they did it, what methods they used. I did a little bit of hypnobirthing. In the past, I was kind of like, hypnobirthing, like that's, and I didn't pay for anything. I just went on YouTube, and I was able to just relax and listen to my body and believe in my body. That's one of the things that I liked about it. Before, I was kind of like, okay, that's just weird. I don't want to like meditate and just all of these things, but it honestly helps me maintain my mind strong. In the moments where I was getting those waves of pain, it just like it really, really just helped me be mentally strong. I also incorporated my faith. I wrote down just these verses, and throughout my pregnancy, God had given me verses for this pregnancy and for this baby. So I held on to those as well, and I would meditate on those and say them out loud and just believe. I went into this labor really, really just believing myself being in a good mental state, a good spiritual state. I feel like a really good physical state as well. Like I made sure to have health in every area so that I could be successful in this. And so then came the time where I was full term, and I just kind of felt like it was going to happen. And the weekend before I went into labor, we had moved, and I remember praying. I was like, God, I would really like for this baby to be born on October 7th. I just like the number 7, and it just felt like the right day per se. So anyway, I started preparing my body. You know, I moving is exercising in itself, and I was already full term. I was already like, yeah, it was like 39 weeks. So I did that, and then at 37 or 38 weeks I started taking primrose oil and red raspberry tea leaf capsules. I did capsules because I cannot do the tea, it's just gross. And I wrote down for the red raspberry tea leaf capsules, they have been known to help to tone and tighten the muscles in the pelvic area, and the primrose oil is to help the cervix thin and dilate and prep it for labor. And so I remember going into like my 38th, it was 38th week checkup, and he said that I was like, I think he said that I was like 80% effaced already or something like that. And I was like 2 to 3 centimeters dilated. So I went home super happy about that. And every single time that I was on my way to the doctor's office, I was listening again to a podcast of successful VBACs, and I just like fed myself all of these success stories. I would visualize my birth, what I wanted to look like, on my way to the doctor or on my way back. It was like this internal journey that I was on that I wouldn't really share with anyone, not even my husband. It was like just me and Jesus in my body and my baby. And it really helped me to just believe in myself and like believe till the end. That's what I kept saying. You gotta believe till the end until it happens. So then it was the 39th week. I just was so tired of being pregnant. I was done. I just felt so heavy, uncomfortable. And I was like, okay, what can we do to get this baby out, you know? And there's so many things that you can do that I was not willing to do, like the castor oil. I was like, nope, I'm not gonna do that. I remember we had sex the night before I got pregnant. Of course we had we had sex the night before I went into labor. That happened, and then sure enough, afterward I kind of just felt like, I wonder if this will like kickstart my labor. And of course, hours later, it happened. So I think it was a combination of everything that I did. I remember the next day, the biggest thing, I took everything one day at a time. During that night, I said, okay, now that I feel like I'm in labor, which was crazy because I had never gone into labor on my own without medication or anything, and it hurt, but it felt so good at the same time to like, oh my gosh, like my body is doing its thing. It's like I'm experiencing labor. Like it was beautiful, and just the thought of it makes me want to cry. But I knew that I had to stay home as much as possible and labor at home, because when you go to the hospital, there's more possibilities of intervention and more, which puts you at higher risk for another C-section. And that's something that I wanted to just avoid. I knew that I wanted to give birth, you know, vaginally, but I wasn't against the epidural, but I wanted to wait as long as I could also. And at home, I had no choice. Like I had to just deal with the pain, you know? And by the time that I got to the hospital, I was 5 centimeters dilated, 100% effaced. So I was already halfway through. And by that time I was like, girl, give me the epidural, because like I am just hurting and I need to be well and rested for when it's time for me to push. And it took me 2 hours to push that little baby girl out. Even though I got the epidural, like I already mentioned in my other video, it didn't even work. So it took the edge off, but it didn't work. So I'm just thankful for how things played out. I'm glad that it didn't fully work, so that it allowed me to feel when I was pushing. And but one of the things that I also wanted to mention in this video was that this is not a formula. This is your own journey, and you don't have to do all the things. I remember listening to a podcast and I really took that in, because a lot of women, which I did with Ezra when I was pregnant with him, they'll go to the chiropractor to get aligned, which is good. It's good to do that, but that doesn't guarantee you a VBAC, because it didn't for me, even though I was going to the chiropractor to get adjusted. I mean, it was good for my body, but it didn't give me a VBAC. Another thing was that they highly suggest having a doula, so that, you know, she can be there supporting you whenever you're caving in and you want meds, and you want an unmedicated labor, or when they're pressuring you to have a C-section. She is like the buffer between like the doctors and you. And that is not, I don't know why, for some reason I just felt like I didn't need a doula, or I don't know, I just didn't feel like I wanted one. With Ezra, I really wanted one, but things just didn't work out. And with this one, I just didn't feel like I needed one. And then there's other women who are like, I could have never had my VBAC or just my birth if it wasn't for my doula. So all I want to say is that you don't have to have A, B, C, or D. You don't have to do all the things. I didn't do all the things. I just did the things that were right for me and for my body and for my baby. So I just want to encourage you with that. And if you are here and you are watching my video and you're like, Xochitl, I really want this VBAC. Like, what did you do? Help me. How can I give birth naturally? These are the things. Apply all of these things, and then, you know, you might find other information, other things that maybe I don't even know. But the greatest thing that I could tell you is just to believe and have faith in your body. I know that sounds so corny, and so played out, but it's the truth. Like, if you really believe in your body, like, your mind has so much power. And that is what I discovered in this pregnancy, that I am so powerful as a woman, and I hold the power within me to tell my body, like, hey, this is how things are gonna go down. I just want to encourage you with that. And I also just want to pray for any woman out there who, like, just, you're at a crossroads and you don't know whether to just schedule your C-section or just keep contending for your VBAC. I just want to pray for you right now, that God would strengthen you, that God would give you the courage to continue to fight for this beautiful birth that you have been dreaming of. And I just want to encourage you and tell you, you can do it. Keep at it, keep going. Let another day go by, and just believe in your body. Relax your body, relax your baby, talk to your baby. You and your baby will come into this world together. And I just bless you. I bless all the moms out there who are on this journey, and my heart is with you. And I cannot wait for you guys to leave stories down in the description box of you guys having your VBAC. If you need any help or just anything else, reach out to me on my socials through Instagram or email me. I always leave those in the description down below. So I hope this video was of help to you. Again, educate yourself, research, be mentally, emotionally, physically strong. Do everything that you can so that you can have your own successful VBAC. And that is it, you guys. I'm sure there's other things that I left out, but for the most part, those are all the things that I did. That is it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for supporting my channel and for supporting me, for supporting this journey. I am so grateful to be sitting here and just be able to share with other ladies what I did so that I could have a successful VBAC. So if you guys haven't subscribed already, please do so. If you found something helpful in this video, give this video a like. And if you want to be notified when I upload another video, then just hit the little bell so that YouTube notifies you when I upload my next video. Until next time, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!